All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. This is the time and place of the Harris Ranch Community Infrastructure District #1 board meeting of February 21st at 11:30. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Agent.
Here.
Clegg. Woodings.
Here.
2 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. And our next item is the approval of the minutes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd move to approve the minutes from the Harris Ranch CID District #1 meeting of December 1st, 2022.
I'll second that. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Agent.
Yes.
Woodings.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right. Next on our agenda are our regular agenda items. And #1 is executive session.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would move that we go into executive session to discuss pending or probable litigation under Idaho Code 742061F.
Second. And I'm hoping that Councilmember Clegg is able to join us when she arrives. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Agent.
Yes.
Woodings.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right, we're going to go into a short executive session and then we'll be back to address the rest of our agenda items on our return. See y'all soon. All right, everyone. Welcome back. We'll resume our agenda #3 and we'll go into our resolutions. I'm going to hand it over to David Hasegawa to walk us through our resolutions.
All right. Well, Madam Chair, members of the board, good afternoon. It's good to see all of you again. My name is David Hasegawa, and I am the administrator for the district. The purpose of today's meeting is for the board of the Harris Ranch Community Infrastructure District #1 to consider whether to approve the purchase of 3 projects and to approve a bond resolution that would fund these 3 projects. All these approvals will be done via resolution. This meeting is not a public hearing, and the board will not hear any oral testimony, but instead will rely on the submission of materials that have been sent in by stakeholders of the district, and I'll touch on that in a moment. Before we get started with the main part of the presentation, I just wanted to clarify that a number of emails and conversations that I've had with residents, there are often questions around who is who with regards to the district. And so I wanted to take a moment to clarify who the 3 entities are that are involved in the creation of the district and then its administration. So there are 3 separate entities that I wanted to touch on. The district itself is a separate legal entity from the city of Boise. And after a petition from the original residents was submitted to the city, the district was created in 2010. The developer is a third-party entity separate from the city and the district. The developer constructs community infrastructure projects and submits those project improvements to the district for purchase. The district itself issues general obligation bonds that are paid via tax levy to fund the purchase of those projects. It is this process that we'll be conducting today. Let me pause and see if the board has any questions. Okay. All right. I also wanted to touch on the notice and how that was conducted. We did receive an objection on February 13th from the Harris Ranch Community Infrastructure Taxpayers Association around the timing of the notice. And so I wanted to add that while a budget public hearing does require 10 days advance notice for the district, this particular meeting does not have that particular requirement. And however, the district did give 10 days notice rather than the required 2 days notice to give the stakeholders a chance to submit any thoughts, comments, concerns, objections. And both the developer and the association did submit letters, which are included as part of the staff report. And separate from the association, we did receive 1 objection letter from a resident that has been included in the staff report.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
David, just because there's no budget component 2 days notice were required and we gave more than 10?
Madam Chair and Board Member Bajan, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So real quickly, there are 3 formal avenues that the district pursued to post the notice. The first is that on the city's website, there is a public meetings page, and that was updated, and you can see a screenshot of that page at the end of, I'm sorry, that this is a separate one. That was posted at the end of January. And then the CID itself has its own page, and that is what is posted up here on the screen. And then on February 10th, the clerk's office formally posted the agenda and the initial version of the staff report. After an inquiry from the association, the district staff also provided a link to the resolutions that are on that website. In addition to these 3 areas, the district staff also reached out to the Taxpayers Association on December 27th and provided the 3rd project request that the developer had submitted. And prior to that, the association did have the initial 2 project requests as evidenced by the fact that they objected to them on September 1st. Finally, on January 28th, district staff reached out to the Taxpayers Association to let them know that February 21st, today, would be the date that the district board would consider the bond resolution and the project resolution. All right. Any questions?
Sir, this is not a public hearing and we won't be taking questions or testimony from the public at this meeting. Thank you. You're always welcome to submit any questions or comments that you have through the CID.
And I will just add that if there are questions, I'm happy to answer those afterwards. And then, as Madam Chair has indicated, if you would like to reach out to Boise Treasury at cityofboise.org, you can always submit email questions and those will come to me personally. All right. There are 2 different resolutions before the board today. The first resolution is a resolution that would approve the 3 projects that were submitted by the developer for purchase by the district. The second resolution authorizes the district to issue general obligation debt to fund the purchase of those 3 projects. We'll discuss the project resolutions first. The developers submitted 3 projects with invoices totaling $4.5 million. After review of those projects, the district staff are recommending that $4.3 million worth of those submitted invoices be approved for purchase. Additionally, Section 4 of this resolution approves 2 additional associated expenses. The first is the interest associated with the projects that is allowed to accrue to the developer per the development agreement. That interest accrues from the time that a project is completed until the project is purchased. Project completion is considered to be the time when the projects are turned over for public ownership. The interest rate that accrues is the prime rate plus 2%. The prime rate plus 2% is currently at 9.75%. The second expense are legal expenses that if a challenge is submitted by any stakeholder, then these legal expenses would be necessary to defend the resolutions themselves. Section 4 of the resolution delegates authority to the district treasurer to calculate and determine the final appropriate amounts to be funded with bond proceeds for these 2 expenses. Any questions from the board?
David, can you just remind us at this point, what's the remaining bonding authority for the district?
Yes, Madam Chair, I believe it is about 35 million
Okay,
that is left currently.
thank you.
Right. And I will add that that is 35 million for bonds that have not yet been issued. The district last year did approve more bonds to be issued, but those have not yet been issued.
Okay.
All right. What I wanted to touch on now are the criteria that are determine the eligibility for a project and its associated invoices to be approved. The first is that all the invoices and projects must meet the requirements of the development agreement. And that development agreement is a contract signed by the city, the district, and the developer. District staff reviewed the projects and found that all of those eligibility requirements have been met. Those requirements are on the screen above, and a more thorough analysis can be found in the staff report. The next requirement is that all of the invoices and projects must meet the requirements of the CID Act. And those are the substantial nexus, direct and indirect benefit, and improvements that are fronting individual single-family residential lots must be excluded. The district staff also found that all three of these requirements have been met and recommend that the projects be approved. A more thorough analysis can be found within the staff report. On your screen, you can see a definition for what substantial nexus is defined to be in the district's interpretation. So these are how the district staff evaluated each of the projects. I won't read all of that for you, but we did find that the nexus of the roadways themselves and the associated utilities were substantial due to their location in the mixed use area of the district. Similarly, the district staff found that the roadways and their associated utilities are absolutely essential to the district itself and therefore provide a direct benefit. And then the final or third requirement under the CID Act is that projects that front individual single-family residential lots must be excluded. And the district found that district staff in their review that all of the projects that have been submitted are in mixed use areas, and therefore there are no individual single-family residential lots. Now, with that said, I have to admit on my part that when I drew the map under project GO 22-3, I did include the area in red to the right, and that area in the red to the right at the very top portion does touch a single family residential lot. However, after clarifying with the district's engineer, I was able to confirm that this project is only the area shaded in yellow, and therefore there are no single family residential lots that touch this particular project. This next shot, you can see the homes, the townhomes to the north are those single family lots, but the darker gray area on South Hopewell's Way is where the project actually ended. So you can tell it ends to the south west of those single family residential lots. So that concludes my remarks for the project resolution. We still have the bond resolution, but I wanted to pause and see if there were any questions before we move to the bond resolution.
Do you have any questions for David?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
In my review of the staff report, I started to take notes on each project, and I finally came away with these conclusions. I want you to just tell me if they're right from the staff report. Each of the projects exists inside the district and overlaps with development in the district, and in some way is designed to create needs that come out of the district, right?
Madam Chair, Board Member Bajent, that's correct.
And none of the projects, notwithstanding a map image error, a brief one, none of the projects front any individual lot.
Madam Chair, Board Member Bajent, that's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Madam Chair, my only question was clarified by you with changing the map that you showed.
Right.
All right. believe it's up to the discretion of the board whether you want to approve the resolution now or
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would move to approve HRCID 1-2023, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Harris Ranch Community Infrastructure District Number 1, making certain findings and determinations with respect to certain community infrastructure projects within the district and providing for related matters.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
In addition to my comments from David, the only other discussion item in here is the addition of possible legal expenses. And in looking at both the history of this and at the possibility of court challenges, I guess I don't understand how the projects could be implemented or how the district itself could move forward without legal advice and legal help. And so in my mind, that's certainly at least a general administrative expense of the district. And that's why I'm supporting its inclusion.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to thank staff for including all of the original documents so we didn't have to go dig them up so that we could review those in concert with application for these particular projects. And my review of those is that they do meet all the criteria, both in the statute and also in the development agreement.
All right, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Agent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Woodings.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right, the next item is number 3, HRCID 2-2023.
All right. Well, Madam Chair, my remarks here will be brief. The bond resolution would approve the issuance of a bond up to $9 million. Now, with that said, if a bond were issued under current interest rates, it would not be possible to reach 9.0 million, only 7.4 million. The reason to have that higher amount is that there is a possibility that the district could receive an offer for a longer term of 20 or more years that would allow for a higher bond issuance amount, or that rates themselves could change by the time the district actually issues a bond. Therefore, the 9 million amount is meant to accommodate unexpected changes that would benefit the issuance of a bond. With that said, the proceeds of 7.4 million, 4.6 million would be used to fund the 2022 projects that the board just approved. And additionally, to fund an unfunded amount of 3.1 million from the 2021 projects. So just a little bit of history. Back in October of 2021, it was possible to issue a bond of 4.2 million. However, the projects that were approved were worth 7.3 million. And that left an unfunded amount of 3.1. Now, those numbers are moving targets because of interest rates, but that is how the district anticipates the proceeds would be used, is to fund the 2022 projects, as well as any amounts that are unfunded for the 2021 projects when a bond actually can be issued. And that is it for my remarks on the bond resolution. Madam Chair, board members, any questions?
Questions for David?
Madam Chair, question for David. If we approve this resolution today, it's not the issuance of the bonds, is permission to explore issuance of bonds. Is that correct?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Board Member Clegg, that's correct. The district would have the discretion as to when to bring forward the bonds themselves for issuance.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're ready for a motion.
With that, I would move approval of HRCID 2-2023.
Second.
Resolution of the Board of Directors of the Harris Ranch Community Infrastructure District Number 1, authorizing issuance and sale of general obligation bonds in one or more series in principal amount up to 9 million.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Agent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Woodings.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right. Item 4 is our future meeting schedule.
All right, Madam Chair, this is for informational purposes only. There will be no resolution associated with this item. Up on the screen, you can see our next board meetings that have been scheduled and the purposes for each of those board meetings. I will draw attention to July 13th because for those that are present and viewing online, that one will be the budget public hearing. And at that meeting, the district board will be accepting oral testimony. But in any event, with any of these meetings, if anyone has questions, please reach out to me and I'm happy to answer any of those questions.
David, will these meeting dates also be posted on the HRCID page on the city website?
Yes, Madam Chair, these meetings, I will work with community engagement to get those posted.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for David on the meeting schedule? Any questions? Great. Well, this was just an information only, so there's no action that's needed, but we do have another action item, which is the election of a board chairperson and vice chairperson. Do I have a nomination?
Madam
Yeah.
Chair, I nominate Councilmember Bajent as chair of the Harris Ranch Community Infrastructure District Number 1.
Second.
Is this something I have to accept or does it just happen to me?
This is something you're being voluntold to do.
All right, well, I'll accept it then.
Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Bajent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes,
Woodings.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
And then we have an election for the vice chairperson.
well, Madam Chair, since I will not be here, I will nominate you, Madam Chair, for vice chairman of the Harris Ranch Community Infrastructure District for 2023.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Clerk, will you call the roll?
Bajent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes,
Woodings.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right, congratulations, Mr. Chairman.
Well, to you too, ma'am.
Thank you. We have no other items on our agenda, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everyone.